Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Being that it is now 6 p.m. on Monday, October 1st, 2018, I'll call to order the Board of Selectmen's meeting. If we could all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item on the agenda this evening is the swearing in of several new Webster police officers. At this time, I'll turn over the floor to Chief Bent and Deputy Chief Mike Shaw.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for allowing us this opportunity to do this. So today we have 4 officers that I'd like to introduce you to the Board of Selectmen in the town. One of them, Jessica Ochaki, has been working. He was appointed April 1st. He comes to us from Burrillville PD. He has about 3 years' experience there. The unique thing about we call him Jack, is that he had an academy from Rhode Island. So he was able to get his academy validated through the MPTC, so he didn't have to go through a full-time academy. So we were able to put him through a field training program right away, and he's been working on the road for several months, which was a huge help to us. The other 3 officers just graduated on September 14th from the State Police Municipal Academy. It's a 24-week academy up in New Braintree, run by the State Police and through the MPTC, where they host a municipal police class as opposed to they usually just do the state police recruits. So they've started their FTO. They're in their 3rd week. First one is Patrick Trainer. Lives here in Webster. He's got a bachelor's degree in international business from Assumption College. He's an avid sportsman and also played college lacrosse. So he's also the brother of Detective Chris Trainer. So you might see the resemblance there. Caitlin DeBono has been a Webster Reserve police officer for about 1.5 years, and she was a Dudley Reserve police officer for about 1 year. She was a dispatcher over in Southern Worcester County Communications Center for about 3.5 years, and a dispatch supervisor right before she came to us. She's got a master's in business administration and security management from Nichols, as well as a bachelor's in criminal justice management from Nichols College, and we're excited to have her. Lastly is Daniel Melhouse. Dan brings with him 14 years of experience at Worcester County Sheriff's Office, where he was last assigned as a detective with the Special Investigations Unit. Has a multitude of experience with the Worcester Gang Unit and a host of other law enforcement agencies, so we're anxious to get his experience and put that to work here in Webster. He was a reserve with the Dudley Police Officer for the last 3.5 years, and he's married to his wife Brandy, and they have 5 children together. So those are the 4. The interesting thing is this is about 10% of our patrol force just graduated from the academy on Friday with Jack, so we're excited. Once they graduate, they'll be done their FTO in about December. That will put us almost at full strength, and then we can start to, I think you're going to see a definite impact on the streets. So thank you.
Okay. Step forward just a little bit. That's good. That's perfect. Raise your right hands, please. It's a good thing you got right up. You solemnly swear and affirm that you will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all duties incumbent upon you as members of the Webster Police Force, according to your best abilities and understandings, agreeable to the town bylaws and the laws of the Commonwealth of South Carolina. I do. Congratulations. Welcome aboard.
Chris knows a chance.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you again.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, we have interviews with 2 individuals to be appointed to the Memorial Beach Planning Committee.
So also, Mr. Chairman, the families of those, you're welcome to leave now, but thank you for attending. We appreciate it. Yeah.
Just 2, Mr. Chair.
Well, 2 of them are going to be coming later on.
Okay,
Evening.
sure.
To what?
So
Oh,
Jen, I
tonight?
believe we have Tom and
Oh, there's time.
There's 3 here.
3 of them here now. Okay. Yep, so we'll just go in order.
Oh, Jason had a meeting at 6 o'clock.
Yep, so we'll start with Ron Frohock here. Yep, if you want to come on up, just introduce yourself.
I wasn't aware I was going to be interviewed, so maybe not really well prepared, but thank you for having me come in today. My name is Ron Frohock. I live at 46 Union Point Road in Webster. Fairly new resident to Webster. I've lived here with my wife and 2 boys for about 2.5 years. Claim to grow up, at least in the summertime, on Webster Lake. As a kid, my best friend had a place on Kildare. So I spent most of my summers here enjoying the lake. I was one of the people that was in the room when the proposal was put in place a number of weeks ago, a month and a half ago, or whatever it was. And I decided at that point that I would at least put myself out there to try to help the town to come up with viable solutions to how to best use the resource, the town beach. I do think that there's an awful lot of things that could be done that would be worthwhile. I think that I could help because I've got about 15 years experience working for a company where I'm responsible for executing all of the live events, both in this country and worldwide. I think that the answer, or some of the answers, as to what could be done or what should be done with the resource that we all enjoy. The best way to come up with the ideas as to what could be done is through the inclusion of the people that are interested. After that meeting, it was clear that a lot of people had ideas, but I'm not sure that anybody really had a voice prior to that meeting. And what I would want to do is I'd want to get involved in a way that we could be inclusive and work as a team. Anybody that's interested to come up with some solutions. So that's basically my viewpoint.
Any questions from any of the board members? All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the 3 of you that are here right now. There's a 4th individual that's going to come in later on. Then after we've done interviews with all 4, then the board will make a vote on the members that we're going to appoint.
Okay,
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you for applying.
So next on the list, Tom Claybart.
Members of the Board of Selectmen, Town Administrator Williston. I'm interested in being named to the Memorial Beach Planning Committee, and I hope it's a long-term and short-term planning committee. I want to help develop a long-term plan for the use of the beach and the adjoining parkland while maintaining the quality of Webster Lake, which I think is very important. I think it's probably the most important asset the town has, and we need to protect that no matter what we do with Memorial Beach. I was born in Webster and grew up in Webster. I went to Nichols College and got a business degree there. And I attended the local schools in town. Then my wife and I got got moved down to Hartford, Connecticut. IBM at that time was, I've been moved, and we got moved down there. But I spent 38 years with IBM. I think some of my skills that I've got with IBM from a planning standpoint would be useful on this committee. Then Rena, and when we were down in New Hartford, Connecticut, one of the things I was involved with was the local town government, like I am here, and I was on the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance. And when we were there, the town purchased a camp on a lake. And I was involved with the town recreation director in helping to develop plans and programs for that camping facility. We improved the beach area. We created a day camp for children. We created sporting facilities in the area. And so I've got some experience from the actual development and implementation of plans for a facility like we have at Memorial Beach. And then, as you know, I'm very involved in town organizations. I'm president of the Friends of Chesterton Corbin Library. I'm on the planning board. I'm the town delegate for the Central Mass Planning Commission. And I'm also on the board of directors of the Literacy Volunteers, which is going to be bringing their services to Webster. So I also think this should be a very inclusive organization committee. And I think we need to get ideas and feedback from the townspeople and from the Board of Selectmen on what the charge of the committee will be. So I hope you consider my qualifications and appoint me to the board, to the committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
All right, thank you so much.
Good. Thank you. Thanks for your time.
And next, we have Jane Levesque.
So this has to be easier than the trial, right? Hearing.
We've appointed Jennifer as our
Yeah.
prosecutor.
So this has to be easier than that. My name is Jane Levesque. I have been either a part-time or full-time resident since I'm 8 months old on Webster Lake. The roots run deep. My grandfather, who would be well over 100, is a native of Webster, and so are his parents and his parents before. I am from New Jersey. My parents have lived on this lake for 42 years, and I moved to Bates Point 3 years ago. I'm a Rutgers graduate. I'm part of the Home Office Leadership, Design and Management Team and Project Management for Allstate Corporation. I'm an environmental enthusiast. I have great passion for this lake. I believe that in addition to enjoying it recreationally, we have to be very conscientious of the environment as well and be open to thinking out of the box for ideas that would be inclusive of all residents, whether they be in Webster or outside of Webster. So there is an awareness, to bring awareness to the lake and what it has to offer, but to do it safely and environmentally safe as well. I have a lot of ideas in mind. I think that we can avoid redundancy by doing the same thing over and over again, which I think we may have been fallen prey to a little bit, where some of the activities are very redundant and people get bored and don't attend. I think that advertising would be a great tool to bring people to Memorial Beach and really enjoy the beauty of the lake. One of my ideas is to actually go back to the intent of Memorial Beach and perhaps have a bit of hallowed ground, so to speak, with a large flag with perhaps bricks that are donated in memoriam to someone. I know that they do that at churches. I knew that they do that to other parks. It will bring some money in, and it'll also be a quiet place where people can go and think and pray or whatever they choose to do to kind of pay homage to what the origins of the beach was for. And I hope you consider me. I'm very enthusiastic about it. My schedule allows for the meetings, and I'm open to any questions you may have.
Any questions from the board? All right, thank you so much. So then we do have one final individual who's coming later on. So after we interview that individual, then the board will vote on the appointments to the Memorial Beach Committee.
So the candidates you don't need to stick around. We'll contact you tomorrow morning and let you know how the vote goes. But
Right.
you are welcome to stick around too, but it may be a long time.
So then,
That's a threat.
Then the next item on the agenda is executive session, and we are going to come back into open session. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to go into executive session. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I signed a disclosure form, and it was filed with the town clerk in regards to.
I also. Done the same.
So we have a motion and a second to go into executive session. Is there any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, do you need to read the reason why we go in?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep, the reason for executive session is to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation. If an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares, and I so declare. Hearing no other discussion, I will poll the board. Selectman Bohr?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Degevich?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Becker?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Right, ladies and gentlemen, we are now back in open session after having exited executive session. We're going to pick back up with the interviews for the appointment to the Memorial Beach Planning Committee, and we have our final individual, Jason Piazza. If you want to come on up.
Mr. Chairman and fellow other selectmen, good evening. I submitted a letter to the town administrator requesting to be on the Memorial Beach Committee because I believe this committee has the ability to change the landscape of Webster Lake in either direction for future generations. It can possibly be the most important plan that a committee has enacted and put forth regarding the lake. I feel I'm well qualified to be on the committee because mainly I've served as Lake Association president for the last 5 years. Therefore, I'm well versed in the issues that Webster Lake faces, its challenges. I get a lot of input from the public via email and through conversations. Another reason is because I serve as chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals, which I've done for the last 2 years. I've been on the zoning board for the last 5. And lastly, this committee appointed me to the Central Massachusetts Regional Planning Commission as its delegate, which I've also began serving this year. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions? All right, thank you so much. Right, next item is voting on the membership from the Memorial Beach Planning Committee.
So how are we gonna do this?
Right, so we had 3 positions available for people that lived on the lake. I believe all 4 of the applicants live on the lake. We do still have 1 vacant position that was supposed to be a town resident at large. So I think that could be interpreted one way or the other. They could or could not live on the lake. So it's up to the board. You can select 3 to be members that live on the lake, and we could still try to find an applicant that doesn't live on the lake, but we haven't.
So no one has
had
put
anyone
in
else
for that?
interested. No one else. We've had other people.
Okay, so I'll make a motion, we put all 4 that I interviewed on the committee. They were all knowledgeable and stepped forward.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to appoint all 4 individuals, Ron Frohock, Tom Claybart, Jane Levesque, and Jason Piotr, to the Memorial Beach Planning Committee, since we have 4 openings at this time.
Through the chair, just for discussion, so do we have to pick a person who's gonna be as a non-lake person? Or do we just?
Jason. At-large person? Jason's the at-large person, how's that?
That works.
Okay.
So you amend your motion to make
Yeah.
Jason? Okay.
All right, so we have a
I'll still
motion
second
and a
it.
second. Is
Yep.
there any other discussion? Hearing no other discussion, I'll pull the board. Selectman Moore?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Begavich?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Becker?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is vote and sign closing documents on the bond anticipation notes with the treasurer collector, Jim Chauvin.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, just a
Yes.
quick thank you to the 4
Yes,
Oh,
thank you.
who offered to.
And thanks for
Sir.
sticking around.
Yep, all set.
Yeah, so what I'm here tonight is not just for the
Taking
board to
minutes.
vote. It's not, and then we can sign the closing documents on the bond anticipation notes. So if we could have a motion and then vote it, and then we can sign them.
We have, do we have a specific motion that needs wording for the,
Yeah, it'll be fine. It doesn't need to be specific.
Mr. Chairman, could we maybe just have the town administrator or Jim
give the public an idea of what we're doing?
Well,
Some big numbers, obviously, here.
yep, what we're doing tonight and stuff is signing bands, which come due every 6 months.
Bond anticipation notes.
Yep, they come, it's not long-term, this is something that comes up every 6 months and stuff. Their anticipation of going long, and I believe we're gonna try to do all of these long borrowings in April.
Yep.
So this will probably be it if everything works out all right. The $4 million is for the Park Ave Elementary School borrowing that we did. The 9.6 includes the Chester Corbin Library, the Bartlett Junior Senior High School repairs, computer bonds, tower truck, computer equipment, planning for the water filtration plant, computer equipment for the school, the street light, the LED street light conversion, a SCADA system, and water mains, which total up to $9.6 million. The only new borrowings in there are for the water mains for the $810,000 and the LED streetlights conversions.
All the others are previous bans that we're just rolling over.
Yeah, they were just rolling them over. The bonds were sold on the 27th. They were purchased by Eastern Bank and TD Securities and stuff. The interest rate, the coupon rate on the bonds were 3.5%. You know, rates are going up.
Half a year.
Rates are going up, so it's not like what we got like 6 months ago, even a year ago.
Right. So what we are going, originally we were going to go long-term a little bit sooner. However, what we're going to do this year is extend these, make everything go long-term at the same time. That will require us to make a pay down in January, I believe, which, since we're going to be making that pay down, it'll save us, it was like $25,000 in interest over the next few years. So it's not a big amount, but making the pay down will, in the long term, save us money.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
Just to our town administrator, does the interest rate and the interest payments come into line with our budget?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I assume those, I think those are anticipated when we did the budget.
So do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
So you have a motion and a second to approve signing the bond anticipation notes for Series A in the amount of $4,040,551 and Series B in the amount of $9,668,829. Is there any other discussion? Hearing no discussion, I'll poll the board. Selectman Board?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Duggan?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Becker?
Yes.
And myself, yes.
And if the board wishes, I'd like to do it the way I always do,
Yeah.
approach and just pass it down.
Absolutely.
My pen's orange. No one wants, you don't want me signing orange. Yeah, right here. 1, 2, 3. No one wants.
Yeah, you might not notice that.
Right. We got a tight budget, we have to share pens.
Bless you.
So then, Doug, while we're
Yep.
signing, do you just want to go over the results from the 2018 community survey?
Certainly, I can do
That way we can keep things moving a little bit.
Yep, sure. So, we have the results from the 2018 community survey that we put out, which is the same the same survey from 17, so we can compare results. So I'm gonna go through and just talk about the ones that have more than a quarter of a point difference. That way we don't have to review all of them, and those are the ones that's been changed. So, the first few questions are kind of generic, your overall feel about the town. So as a place to live and play, it increased by a quarter, or 0.25. As a place to raise a family, 0.33. The overall quality of life in town, 0.34. And the direction the town is headed is a 0.63. That's the highest increase in the whole survey. I think that's important that the community feels like we're moving in the right direction. And then the overall value you receive here, town tax and fees went up nearly half a point. A couple that went down were the overall maintenance of town streets and the overall management of stormwater runoff by the town. So I think the street maintenance might have had a lot to do with this survey was put out in June and July before Main Street was repaved. I think now that Main Street's repaved, we get a lot better results from that. The overall library facilities and services increased. Not exactly sure why that increased, because the facility hadn't changed at that point, but we'll take the credit anyway. The effectiveness of town communication increased, as well as overall planning and growth in new development. Transparency of town government jumped as well as the availability and access to town leaders. The next couple have to do with police, which is kind of unique. So the overall efforts to prevent crime went up 0.32, and the town efforts to address the substance abuse crisis went up 0.4. But then, so in one sense, they feel the police department's being effective, but then the results of how safe you feel in your neighborhood and after dark, and the overall feeling of safety in the town all actually showed a decrease. However, we were with less patrol officers this past year due to a couple of untimely deaths and a few people that moved on. So with the new 4 officers that were sworn in tonight, we hope that those numbers will be able to increase quite steadily. Again, it talks about the maintenance of major town streets, which went down. I think that can be directly tied to Main Street. The speed and quality of snow removal in your neighborhood streets increased by nearly half a point. The appearance of downtown also increased by nearly half a point. Another one that's somewhat surprising, the clarity and taste of the tap water in your home increased by 0.46. So either the ice pigging and the flushing is helping, and again, the water treatment plant will be completed in less than a year, so after that's completed, those numbers should increase dramatically. And then the frequency of town-sponsored events went up by 0.34%, or 0.34 points. Also in there is a lot of, included the comments that if it was an open-ended question, they could respond. So a lot of people get their information about town from the local newspaper as well as our Facebook page. If you read through some of the public safety issues, they're not exactly surprising. They want to focus on keeping the town safe. Parks and recreation, a lot of it focused on cleanliness of the beach and other town parks. A few other things. The people requested that we do more maintenance or code enforcement in the downtown area, picking up the litter. When we asked about what they liked the most and least about living in town, the lake was on everyone's list as something that they enjoyed living in town for, and the small town feel and quality of life. So, thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you.
Yeah. And overall, there's a couple of things that you could, just an open-ended question at the end. I think people seem to be, in general, appreciative of the work that's been happening. A few comments that they want us to continue focusing on downtown and Main Street and our economic development efforts there. I don't know if the board has any other comments from reviewing the survey. I was pleasantly surprised and glad that people think we're moving in the right direction.
The fire department always has high marks. You
They
notice
always
that?
do have high
Yeah.
marks. Yeah, last year they were almost perfect, so
Yeah.
they didn't change that much.
No.
The only, through the chair, the only one I was a little surprised at on the first page was the decrease in town wastewater sewer service. I didn't quite
Yeah, I don't
understand
know why that would have changed at all. I don't know.
Because rates went up.
Perhaps, there weren't a lot of backups in the sewer system, so I'm not
Still
sure
going
why that would.
downhill, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And again, through the chair, one of the concerns, I think it was mentioned once or twice in here, but I know I've heard from people who live on the lake were concerned about their taxes going up so much, but as I've tried to explain, it's not necessarily the tax rate as much as we've added on a lot of debt, obviously for the school, the library, the water, that's on the water rates, the police and fire station, and lakefront properties are going much, much higher. Their values are going up a lot more, so they're bearing more of the brunt of those tax increases. So in fact, I think in some places in town, some homeowners' rates are going down. So,
Yeah, I was surprised to see that the overall value for the taxes and fees was increased, so they were pleased with that.
the only other question, Mr. Chairman, was how many people? I didn't.
Well, so that was,
Well, maybe you didn't want me to ask that.
well, in 2017, we had almost 300 people. We only had a little over 100, and we advertised it the same way, so I'm not sure why the drop. And this was all self-guided. We double-checked to make sure that there weren't a lot of answers that were all exactly the same, and checked.
One person.
Yeah, right. But it is possible that one person made multiple responses from different computers.
All right. So then, going on, the next item on the agenda is vote and sign the warrant for the state election on Tuesday, November 6th, 2018.
Yeah, so this is the state warrant. We do need to vote on a senator in Congress, governor and lieutenant governor, attorney general, secretary of state, treasurer and receiver general, auditor, representative in Congress, counselor, senator in general court, representative in general court, district attorney, clerk of courts, register of deeds, and then there's the 3 questions that are also on the ballot.
Mr. Chairman, just a question. Are we required to read this, or can we take a vote to approve as what was written and that's provided
I believe you
on
can
the website?
Approve it as written.
approve
I'll make it
as printed.
Make that as a motion.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve the warrant for the state election on November 6th, 2018. With a motion and a second, is there any discussion?
One point of clarification, all precincts will be again in the auditorium for the November election.
Excellent. All right, any other discussion? Hearing no other discussion, I'll have Jen poll the board.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Dolgevich?
Yes.
Selectman Book?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Chairman Jolta?
Yes. Next item on the agenda is declare surplus property from the library furniture.
Yeah. Sorry, Jen, do you have the original warrant that they signed for the state?
There's 2 copies in the purple.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
All right, so with the library moving into the new building, we have the leftover furniture and some shelving left in the auditorium from the interim location. We are going to give if the board declares a surplus, we'd like to give most of the shelving to a new library that is going to be under construction, and they're going to need interim shelving, much like we did. We received that from another community that had done that, so it's kind of the tradition to pass it along. So we'd like to do that. But then there is other shelving for magazines and other items that the new library does not want that we need to get rid of. So I'd like to declare that surplus. There's also 3 desks, 3 bookshelves, 4 filing cabinets that need to be declared surplus. as well as in the children's room in the new library. The furniture that we ordered was not available in time for the grand opening. So they provided low-end generic furniture to us for the initial opening. As soon as that new equipment comes, the old equipment will be surplus and we can dispose of that as well. So I'd like the board to declare all of those surplus, and we will, we'll either have a tag sale or we'll try to find maybe one of those junk companies that can come in and they'll pay us for a certain amount of it, especially the ones that have a lot of metal. We'll see what we can get the best price for surplus.
Motion to approve.
Second.
So a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? And just under town bylaw, we do have to wait, I believe, 14 days after the date of vote to take any final disposition of the materials. Is there any other discussion? Hearing no other discussion, Jen, will you pull the board?
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Dovgevich?
Yes.
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Chairman Jolda?
Yes. Next item on the agenda is vote to adopt Mass General Law, Chapter 32B, Sections 21 through 23.
So if you recall, last year at about this time, we adopted sections 21 through 23. We just wanted to clarify, make it clear that we wanted to do that again. As we're looking at different health insurance options, I'll just go through them. So one, there's the group insurance commission with the state. It has some benefits. It's less expensive and would be likely, well, they have 12 different options for plans. If we follow the same breakdown that other municipalities have that have joined the GIC, the town would save a significant amount of money, and employees in general would save money depending on what plan they chose. There are definitely some drawbacks to it. Blue Cross Blue Shield is not available, which is what we have now. And if you live out of state, you would have to join one of the higher end plans rather than one of the HMO plans, which would be more expensive for those employees that live out of state. Another option is we could go with the group insurance commission, but kind of revise how we go in so we could offset the more expensive plans for those who live out of state, or somehow find ways to make it more equitable across for all employees and mitigate some of the problems that might be available. But again, you're still dealing with no Blue Cross Blue Shield being available. We can just stick with what the status quo is, which is Blue Cross Blue Shield. This has two drawbacks. One, it's expensive, and two, we're carrying the risk all ourselves. We can move to Maya, which is a full premium-based insurance, which is more expensive to us, but the risk is removed. What I would love to do, and we'll have to wait for the numbers to come back to see if this is a viable option, is we'd like to create a joint purchase group with several of the other communities in southern Worcester County. We're working with the group benefit strategies. They run several other joint purchase groups throughout the state. In our initial discussions with them, they definitely say they can get lower rates than what we're currently paying on Blue Cross Blue Shield plans, and that if we were able to do that, we could spread the risk across all of the communities, so it wouldn't be just on Webster. So if we had a bad claims year, it'd be spread out across the 3 or 4 or 5 communities that are going to join the group. So I have a meeting October 11th with the group benefit strategies where they'll be providing the rates to us. Also, we'll try to get some confirmation on how many communities actually are willing to join. So I think that's the #1 goal for everyone at this point, is to be able to join the joint purchase group and stay with Blue Cross Blue Shield and have lower rates. So if that works out to our advantage, everyone's happy. So we will need to adopt section 21 through 23, which allows me to negotiate with all the bargaining units at the same time. We may need to adjust a copay or the deductible amount, although I think the joint purchase group is using us as the benchmark, so our plans will probably be the ones they offer are very, very similar to our plans. The section 21 through 23 process just allows allows me to join or to negotiate with everyone at the same time. I think it's 22 that allows us to just make changes to our current plans, and then 23 would be if you were going to go to the group insurance commission. Any questions? I know we have some members that were part of the previous PEC, so if you have any questions or comments.
Well, I just noticed in your PowerPoint, I don't know if you have a copy of the PowerPoint.
They do, yep.
So just to mention that the only thing that the unions have to bargain with is the percentage wise, so that couldn't be changed. So I noticed on here, yours are at some 60%, some 40%, some 70-30. The only thing that the state has given us is the right to bargain our percentage wise.
Yeah.
So that you wouldn't be able to touch those.
Yeah.
But we would respectfully ask that you not enact 23, you could enact 21 and 22 without doing 23. You don't have to do all three of them.
Yeah. So I would recommend doing 21 through 23. No offense, but that would at least give us another option to pursue if the numbers don't come back as good as we hoped, and we do need to look at different alternatives. That leaves the GIC still available as a different option.
Would you like to be on the GIC?
Yes, I would.
Could I read a statement I wrote? I don't want to get verbose, but despite the small numbers you see here, we are from the largest block of town employees. Some are salaried workers and others are paid hourly. None of us can afford a change in our health insurance, which would prevent us from having affordable health care. Everything I've read about GIC is that, sure, the premiums are lower, but everything else is higher. There's higher deductibles, higher co-pays, higher for medicines. So we would like to have some influence in how things go, and 23 takes that away from us, doesn't it?
So 23 just allows me to bargain with everyone together. So everyone has to agree on whatever we officially decide upon. Except if it gets to the point where there's a certain amount of savings and it's in excess of a certain amount, then it can go to a board that's made up at the state level, and they would determine whether or not we would go to the GRC or not.
I'm just hoping that savings for the town won't bankrupt your employees.
And I think
that can happen with higher out-of-pocket for our health care.
Yeah, and definitely the goal is to actually decrease the out-of-pocket costs, including the premiums for employees as well as the town. On the information that was passed out, if you look on it, I put on here the aggregate costs and savings for the employees, so you can see that the GIC has a significant savings for the employees as well. So currently, employees pay in total $2.1 million. If we were to join the GIC, in total, employees would be paying $1.8 million. Also, I did on here an analysis of employees on an individual plan as well as a family plan, and then I broke those down by if you go to the doctor a lot or if you go to the doctor not a lot. So if you were a high utilizer on an individual plan, on the GIC, you'd be paying anywhere from $3,200 a month to $4,900 a month, where right now you're paying $3,700 a month. So if you were a smart consumer, the opportunity to save money is on there by moving to the GIC.
And through the chair, Doug, you have GIC standard and GIC revised?
Yeah, so
there's one a high plan, one's a low plan?
So the GIC revised would be just playing with the contribution split to provide an offset for people who live out of town or who live out of the state.
There's also been some concern about losing the providers that they have, the doctors that they have, and the hospitals that they go to, having to change them.
Yeah.
Has there been a match of those to see the various plans?
Right. So I do have that. It's not on here, but there are GIC plans available that cover every doctor and every hospital in the state. So, yeah, I very much am aware of the concern. I don't want people to have to switch their doctor.
Because we did, me personally, when the Blue Cross Blue Shield went comparable to the GIC, I did just switch all my doctors so that I could pay the lower deductibles and co-pays. I was all through UMass, I've now switched all to St. Bede's and doctors like that. So I just did that just a few years ago, so, that is a concern.
Right, yeah, so if you have already done that, then you'd be eligible for the cheaper GIC plan, which could save you money. Again, I think the best case scenario for me and for the unions is if the joint purchase group rates work out, and then.
Well, I know in the spring you had mentioned Dudley is interested, is that?
It's the Dudley Charlton School District, and we've talked to other surrounding communities as well.
Again, through the chair, could I ask Doug, who does Dudley use? Town of Dudley, Oxford, Charlton?
Oh, yeah, so Charlton and Dudley use a group, it's HCOG, the Hampshire Council on Governments. So they, it's kind of a joint purchase group that they've joined using Blue Cross Blue Shield. The last 2 years we've applied but have been rejected because our claims have been too high. I am actually not sure what Oxford does for health insurance.
Would we be trying to apply again to the Dudley Charlton one?
Yes,
based on our
I would,
experience?
yes.
I don't know if our experience is up or down.
I would expect to be denied again, but I'm certainly willing to apply.
Mr. Chairman, one of the big issues is being self-insured, and I think that is, we've talked about that a number of times, and that it's just beyond the cost of the town. But on the other hand, there's a savings for the, I'll call it the GIC standard. I mean, both the employee is saving money. Looks like the town is saving money in the aggregate.
Right.
But this isn't something that's done in the aggregate, it's done at the individual level. There's probably nothing closer to disruption than having to change your PCP.
Yeah.
So, I mean, no matter what you do, to me, and I realize you are the CEO of the town, whatever we decide to do, I think you have to minimize the disruption on PCPs, and to the extent possible, you might have savings in your monthly or your semi-weekly pay, but what those deductibles and those co-pays are have to also be taken into consideration. So.
I think that's a big concern of mine, being a representative of care professionals, where I don't make a lot of money, and my salary's not that high. So larger co-pays, deductibles, and medicines is pretty much a very big concern for me, because the paperwork that I've looked at is maybe $20 a week at that I'm saving, and then, paying double the deductible or double
Yeah,
double the prescription.
Yeah. So I am very confident that if we were to go to the GIC, which again is certainly the backup plan, that we can make it so that there's savings for the vast majority of employees, including premiums and deductibles, as well as out-of-pocket copays. It does get a little difficult for those that live out of the state, so that's my biggest concern if we were to move to the GIC, is how to get those people reasonable coverage.
I've just also heard about the service is not as good, and the customer satisfaction.
Yeah, I've been on the GIC for 2 different municipalities, and I've been very pleased with it. I didn't notice any difference from when I was on a Harvard Pilgrim plan, not on the GIC, to when I joined a Harvard Pilgrim plan on the GIC. Again, I want to work with everyone to make sure that we
Well, I just feel like I have seen a big change since I went on the Blue Cross that's comparable to the GIC,
Yeah.
with co-pays and deductibles and,
So were you on it with
medicines.
people in your former town, or just people that were employed for your town?
So, sorry, what do you mean?
Were you using the GIC as well as people that were in your town?
Yeah.
Okay, because from what I heard, people, after 3 years, they were done with it, they turned around and didn't want it anymore.
So in Grafton, they did change back to, they went to a Harvard Pilgrim plan. Somerville, I believe they're still with the GIC.
It just seems like it's a temporary fix.
I don't think it's temporary.
Well, people aren't happy with it, and I think healthcare is important. You want top-notch employees, and you want to have good healthcare for people. So that's a concern for me, and with people with families, we have kids, we have relationships with our doctors, and when I heard that my doctors don't accept some plans, and I really do not want to be leaving my doctors, and it might even cost me a job.
Yeah, so I hear you very clear, and I'm on the same page. I want to make sure that there's minimal disruption, and ideally, we're sticking with Blue Cross Blue Shield, and that works best for everyone. We have worked very hard over the summer to make that a realistic possibility.
Can I just say, the previous town that I worked for, I worked there while we converted over to the GIC, and I loved the GIC, and I wish I could go back to it. I don't have a problem with Blue Cross here, but the GIC, it was a flawless transition, and the plan was a PPO that I had, and it was a better plan than what I have here. It was less expensive. The annual increase with the GIC in terms of our premiums were incredibly low. The co-payments were equitable. The doctors were broad. It's funny to hear people that are afraid of it, because we transitioned, and I didn't hear a single person that had an issue with it, and I was on it for 7 years, so. It's a very good program. I don't think it's changed very much. I've only been here for, a year, a little over a year, so. It's something to be open to hear about. It's different, but I was very happy with it.
Just one other question.
Yep.
We can't get a reasonable, fully insured rate through Blue Cross Blue Shield?
So it would, the one through Maya, which is
That's
the cheapest Blue Cross Blue Shield.
administered by.
Yes, so this past year, it was a $200,000 increase over staying self-insured.
When does this become effective?
So
The change
it would be for July 1st of
next
19.
year?
Yeah,
So, what is the pleasure of the board for enacting or adopting Mass General Laws, Chapter 32B, Sections 21 through 23?
I guess I will make a motion to accept sections 21 through 23, and with the understanding, what we discussed here, the town administrator will do his best effort to what he said with regards to, maintaining the proper balance with co-pays, deductibles, and the actual health insurance premiums. And, I think the biggest thing to keep in mind is the potential disruption with the PCP.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
So, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, Jen, will you?
I just want to throw my 2 cents worth. I understand what some of the folks are saying. Sometimes you get a 2% pay raise and you go whoopee, and you get a 4% increase in your insurance and your deductibles. Oh, you're in the operating room, you're getting prepped. Oh, we'll take the charge card. I've been through this personally. I need $500 now. What if you didn't have that on your charge card, or checkbook, or cash? We take cash. That boggles my mind. I'll have to say, I'm on my wife, she works for the state. And it's like, really? And that's one of the biggest things, because she's very good at this, I'm terrible at this. And I've seen her go into surgery, and it's the same thing. You get your card, and this, the lady 30 seconds away from an operation. Or you go to a doctor's appointment, oh, by the way, where's your other $100? You say, wait a minute. I'm putting some faith in our administrator on this, because it is an issue that is, quite frankly, over the last 30 years has gone totally off the wall, and it's a big issue now. It's caught up with us. We used to give it for free rather than a pay raise, because you could do it then, but then it was inexpensive. Now it's a necessity. And I just wanted to throw in my 2 cents, because I do know what you're talking about, all of you.
Yeah, because when we get a 2% raise, it may be 20 cents.
No, believe me. Well, look at us, we haven't had a raise in 20-some odd years.
You're not gonna get one either.
Hint, hint.
It's the smallest violin playing on solo meal.
Any other
I'm
discussion?
not asking for it.
All right, hearing no other discussion, Jen, will you poll the board?
Selectman Miller?
I'm first, see.
Yes.
Selectman Dubkevich?
Yes.
Selectman Book?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
Yes,
Chairman Jolda?
Yes.
thank you for,
All right, next item on the agenda is the town administrator's report.
Excuse me, thank you for listening to us.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll go through it quickly since you're looking at your watch. But as you know, we have 4 new officers sworn in. Also this Saturday, we're having a police department car show down behind the police station next to the French River Trail. We have our Halloween events coming up this month, so Trick or Treat downtown is on the 26th. Trunk or Treat is going to be at the beach on October 30th, Tuesday, and then a regular Trick or Treat night on October 31st, Halloween, from 5:30 to 7:30. Skipping down to finances, we met with the Municipal Finance Oversight Board to approve $810,000 in short-term bonds. That was a portion of what we approved tonight. And we will be going long-term on all the bans in April. Under economic development, this past week, I attended a conference in Worcester. One of the things that we found out was a program that's available to us. We'll be applying for $100,000 to fund our economic development incentive program. So it's a program we've made some grants recently to, for some improvements downtown that they're in the process of implementing. Speaking of downtown, the staff and the EDC chair and I, we walked downtown. We picked out small projects that we thought will have a big impact visually. So we'll, over the next few months, be implementing those and hopefully dressing up downtown even more. Last time we talked about how we got $311,000 in loan forgiveness from the SRF. I didn't even take into account that because of the principals being forgiven, there will be less interest as well, so that's another $108,000. We had the library ribbon cutting ceremony this past Saturday. It's a good event. The Pulaski Band was there, made it for an entertaining morning. The highway garage roof is out to bid, and we're getting those bids back on October 12th. If you recall, this is on the warrant to be funded, the difference between what we approved in May and what this new bid will cost. The installation of the streetlights started today, and a year ago, last July, we approved money for removing an underground storage tank from the fire station, which has been removed, and Kenny started paving it today. We do have an open positions in the sewer department, so if anyone watching out there is interested, the application's available online. We'll be putting out our town meeting guide later this week for our October 15th town meeting. Again, that's at the high school at 7 p.m. I did a Ask the Town Administrator Facebook Live show. I think that's what it's called. I don't usually do that kind of stuff, so, but I guess it got 1,000 views, so I think it's a good, effective tool for getting the message out to the community on what's going on. And we held our community shredding day a couple weekends ago. Great event. Our only problem is we ran out of room in the truck, so we're going to have to hold another one in the near future. So any questions on any of that?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve and accept the town administrator's report. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, just a quick question for Doug. I'm not sure where we are with our next financial quarterly kind of number update. Maybe I don't know if it's next meeting or.
Yeah, so it'll
Just don't
be,
want to forget about that, because when we did the bands tonight, I'm curious where we are with
We're
regards to our
level.
limits.
yeah, so, I mean, those had been counted in one of our previous one, but yeah, we need to do the update. So there's a few items that we may not want to make because in October, we have a meeting right before the town meeting. And then we didn't have another one scheduled until November. We may want to adjust that schedule. I'll work with you, Andrew, to see if we should hold an earlier meeting. But since I know you guys like meeting all the time, we'll do that.
Any other discussion? Hearing no other discussion, Jen, will you pull the board?
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Dubkevich?
Yes.
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Chairman Jolda?
Yes. Next item on the agenda is vote and declare as surplus property the 2000 Ford pickup, red plate number MFA 736 from the fire department.
So the issue with this truck is that it's constantly trying to turn over and start on its own without keys, anything. So a few weeks ago, it was parked behind the police station and it was starting to turn on. And then it has this burning smell, and it's certainly a liability. It has well over 100,000 miles on it. I think it's better for us to surplus it than risk it being a liability for the town.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the 2000 Ford pickup truck, red plate number MFA 736 as surplus. Is there any discussion?
Just a point of interest, that's the old highway superintendent.
Yes,
truck,
right. So it has lived a long life. It went from highway, was painted red to go to the fire station, has been there several years, and has this issue now.
Whoa.
Any other discussion? Hearing no other discussion, Jen, will you pull the board?
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Dubkevich?
Yes.
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Chairman Jolda?
Yes. Then I know we do have the regular session meeting minutes from September 17th. However, I believe they are not available yet. So we do have 30 days from the last meeting to approve them. So I'm going to ask that we have those ready for our meeting prior to the town meeting. Seeing no other items on the agenda, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
So we have a motion and a second to adjourn. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, Jen, will you pull the board?
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Dubkevich?
Yes.
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Chairman Jolda?
Yes.